This video is not suitable for children. I've never been especially fond of Harry Potter. I didn't read the books, but I did watch the films, and they were fine. They were nothing terrible, but nothing that remarkable either. Also, they should have been named Schemes of Lord Voldemort or something, not Harry Potter, because without Voldemort, Harry Potter would be nobody. Anyway, it was a neat story and reasonably enjoyable to follow, but it never really pulled me in. That's why I didn't really care about Hogwarts Legacy when it was released. I thought it was another generic game from a $1 million franchise. I think another reason might be that 2023 being a very fruitful year for me when it comes to games. Resident Evil 4 Remake made me experience one of the best survival horror games, and its shoot-em-up design was pretty fun. I also bought Hearts of Iron 4 for the first time close to the end of 2022, so my RTS quota was being fueled by it for the most part. Atomic Heart and Starfield were decent FPS games that I enjoyed playing through, even though they were not the lovely gems that I was waiting for. Trepang 2 was a very fun FPS that I didn't expect an indie studio to pull off. Star Wars Jedi Survivor was a neat experience, and Alan Wake 2 finally gave us a continuation for the first installment. And of course the star of that year was Baldur's Gate 3. It was one of the best RPG experiences for me, no doubt. Well, in summary, 2023 was plentiful in giving us action games and RPGs, so I didn't even realise what Hogwarts Legacy really was. Speaking of RPGs, when it comes to video games, they are what I genuinely love. Especially the ones that give you real freedom to shape a character, influence the world, and see your decisions leave a mark. Immerse in, I mean. Games that force you to consider the outcomes and teach you to live with the consequences of your actions. And that's why I bought Hogwarts Legacy a couple of weeks before it was given away for free on Epic. I was out of new immersive RPGs, and I was jumping through the search features of Steam. I even downloaded The Witcher 3 again to keep me at bay in that regard while I'm searching for a new game. Then I saw Hogwarts Legacy when I was searching for the Choices Matter tag. I was like, wait, is this game an RPG in that regard? And was genuinely confused when I also saw the game featured a character creation system. Wasn't this game a Harry Potter game? Turns out, it wasn't. After looking a bit more, I decided that I may check that game out, so I bought it, downloaded it, but didn't really have time to play it. To be honest, I wasn't so eager either, because as I said, I didn't have much interest in Harry Potter and its universe before. Then, when I finally had time, the game became free, and it was announced at the Game Awards. There was no Half-Life 3 or The Elder Scrolls 6. So I said, hey, let me play this game. I launched the game, created my character called Edmund Burke, and hopped in. We get into the Wizarding world with this game in the 1890s. Our character is an aspiring wizard who's been admitted to the Wizarding School very much late, as a 5th year. Because he is late to his studies, a mentor, Professor Fig, has been and is assisting him in his spells and came to accompany him through his journey to boarding school for young witches and wizards of the British Isles, Hogwarts. Oh, by the way, for some reason, we don't use Hogwarts Express. I don't know why, the game never explains it. Before we depart, a friend of our mentor, Professor, appears and we start our journey to the Scottish Highlands. On our way, Professor Fig's friend gives an artifact from Fig's late wife right before being devoured by a dragon that attacks our carriage. After this violent intervention, Professor Fig and our character, whom I will call Edmund from now on, get teleported to a remote location by the artifact, which happens to be a portkey. That remote location brings Edmund and Fig into Gringotts, which is a visiting bank. Edmund gets locked in, and first with Fig and later without, he fights some guarding statues and then gets reunited with Fig. Throughout his journey, Edmund sees traces of something called ancient magic, which is an ability neither Fig nor others seem to possess. After this, a goblin named Ranrock breaches the vault and attacks Edmund and Fig. Fig tries to counterattack, but fails. The vault senses that it has been breached and deploys a guarding statue which attacks Ranrock. Then, taking advantage of the chaos, Edmund tries to escape, but Fig takes his sweet time to admire the statue and its magic for some reason. Though finally he comes to his senses when a bloody pillar falls onto him, so Edmund and Fig escape through the magical door and end up right on the outskirts of Hogwarts. They make haste to get to the sorting ceremony and make it there just in time. Edmund gets sorted into the Slytherin house and his journey at Hogwarts begins. Quick notice, next section contains major spoilers, so if you want to skip over, just use the timestamp on screen. Well, not much to say, the game's got a pretty lame story. As you may guess, this ancient magic is what we'll be investigating in the main questline. We find and connect the dots as we follow the traces. As we proceed, we pass trials created by people called Keepers to protect this ancient magic and give the knowledge to only the worthy people. These trials include small puzzles, fighting guardian statues, and lastly, witnessing memories. In these memories, we learn there's an ancient, powerful magic type that is accessible only to a handful of people. We also learn that it's unknown and unpredictable. Of course, we also have a person who tries to use this unpredictable power recklessly, Isadora Morganach. She uses this ancient magic to cure people of all pain and stores the residue of that magic in containers made of goblin silver. Even though the other keepers don't really condone her actions, it somehow passes peer review. Until it doesn't. As she cures more people, the side effects of this reckless use of ancient magic start to surface. Isadora's father, who was her first subject, loses all his emotions instead of just his pain. As a result, obviously, keepers try to stop Isadora. Isadora, of course, refuses because who needs bloody feelings and a sword in it? Anyway, she refuses and a fight breaks out. At the end of the fight, Isadora gets the honour of becoming food for worms, and the keepers hide her repositories to keep them away from bad people, because that's what wise elders do. They die and leave vague instructions. After many years, Ranrock finds about the secret, and he tries to find and use these repositories to wipe the wizard kind out and rule the magic world. He believes that because the repositories are made by the goblin kind using goblin silver, they belong to goblins, and they are powerful weapons against the oppressing wizard kind. As Edmund figured from the events in the vault at Gringotts, Ranrock got to a repository already, used its power, and searching for other repositories. Even though Edmund tries to get ahead of Ranrock, he gets to the other repositories before Edmund, and Edmund learns that the last repository is under Hogwarts. Ranrock attacks Hogwarts with powerful drills from below, surpassing the enchantments of Hogwarts using the magic from the other repositories. As a result, Edmund, with the help of Hogwarts professors, except Headmaster Black, defends the repository. Ranrock kills Fig. Edmund kills Ranrock and saves the wizarding world. As you can see, there are no twists and turns in the story. There are no big reveals or any unknowns that we discover. It's just a painfully ordinary storyline with Bond villains and of course a chosen one. It starts interesting and the game teases you about things to come, but as we proceed, you just say, and stop caring about the main story, rightfully so. It's just a hollow scaffolding for a storyline that is not even properly built. As I said, there are no twists in the linear story, let alone different paths or endings. Choices matter tag? A bloody fraud. Almost. Technically, they matter in some side quests, and technically you can get two different endings, as endings mean a different line from Professor Fig and a single different cutscene. Absorbing the power from repositories instead of keeping it hidden is the bad ending, I guess. Unironically, side quests especially Sebastian's ones, are more interesting than the main questline. Don't get me wrong, they're not that good either, but compared to the main storyline, they still have more depth. For example, as I said before, Sebastian's questline seemingly offers you different, morally grey and sometimes even straight up dark story pieces. Poppy's questline offers you more unexpected backstories, but still, these are, albeit better than the main story, not that great. They are still pretty linear, there's still not much you can change or witness differently. Also, the main villain Ranrock is... I could really understand if Isadora was the main villain. The game actually teases it. It shows your signature, underlined grin of a villain's birth. We see a person with good intentions being poisoned with power hunger and a desire to save people that goes so far that it starts to hurt and destroy the very people she wants to save. A great basis for a cool villain. And then she fucking dies. Why the fuck does she even exist? Just to scaffold the bloody plot? I could understand if the story had more characters like her. Characters with backstories that try to make sense and try to make a connection. But she's pretty much the only one among the villains. And if we get rid of her, nothing changes in the story. Also, the main villain Ranrock's backstory? He hates wizards, so he starts a rebellion. That's fucking it! Let alone the fact that he's a goblin. The main villain is a bloody goblin, a creature that is 1.25 meters tall, that is literally 4 feet in archaic British colony units. In the later stages probably, the developers also thought about the fact that the main villain is a bloody goblin who's probably shorter than the bloody stools in the neighbourhood pub, and that I could carry him in a bloody cello case and nobody would notice until he starts talking. So they made an alternate form for him that is not even remotely a goblin, so at least in the boss fight, that we could get him as a threat. Doesn't this defeat the whole backstory? I mean, wasn't this guy a goblin supremacist? Why would he choose to become a dragon with all that power? If they've given him a good backstory that player can see and a proper display of power, other than pushing down an old professor in a bloody cutscene, this could have worked. Not even talking about advanced examples like DMC5's unwinnable first boss fight that starts everything, just a proper display of power. Also, Ranrock's henchmen, Rookwood and Harlow are not so great either. Rookwood is a character that we encounter like 4 times in total, the last one being right before the final battle, and the others being like 30 seconds in cutscenes. Yeah, why does he even exist? Harlow? You mean reskinned Ashwinder executioner with a sodden bowler hat and a 3000 HP? Pretty weak story element, shouldn't really exist either. Well, in summary, the story is the weakest link in the chain. It's not that interesting or surprising. Side quests, like Sebastian's story, are better than the main story, but they are still not great. When badly written villains and useless characters are combined with a hollow plot and underwhelming storytelling, it doesn't make a good combination. Even though the story is not great, the atmosphere is astonishing. The whole game is obviously designed by Potterheads for Potterheads. If you like Harry Potter's universe, you will love the game. If you really didn't get into it, after playing the game, you probably will. The game delivers the Wizarding World experience very swiftly. Music is pretty on point. Graphics are not perfect, but pretty good. Landscapes, views, towns, the environment in general is visibly designed with love. It tries its best to make you feel like a student in the Wizarding World and achieves its goal with remarkable success. Every corner, every building, every street, every landmark screams off the Harry Potter universe. As a not so much Harry Potter fan, I definitely like this game more than films. And the castle. Oh, the castle. Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry is designed marvellously. The magnificent exterior and lovely rustic interior, every centimetre is created superbly. I can't even put into words how beautiful it is to run around corridors, explore the rooms, fly around the keep, and watch the scenery while listening to the astonishing soundtrack. Simply beautiful. Even made a part of me want to be a student in this spectacular school and explore the breathtaking environment. That's why, unless it's too far, I preferred walking around halls and flying around with a broom over fast travel. Because, well, the feeling that Harry Potter fans describe that they got from the films and the books. Yeah, I got it from this game. Also, because it's a game obviously made for Potterheads, the game tried its best to convey the lore. The Thestrals becoming visible after witnessing the dragon feasting on Fig's friend, seasons changing over time since we were advancing in the school year, the suspiciously similar lake to the Patronus scene, transfiguration symbol being Ron's Rat Cup failure. These are all nice lore details added in the game. But unfortunately, it's not perfect. The spectacular environmental immersion is broken by weak or completely absent features. The core problem is, Hogwarts looks like a school, but it doesn't behave like one. The school is too free for a boarding school. Curfew doesn't exist because Pink Floyd's Out the Brick in the Wall is yet to be released, so Hogwarts professors couldn't take inspiration for the curfew.
Absolute rubbish, laddies! Get on with your work.
It's the 1890s, for heaven's sake. How in the hell does a boarding school not have a curfew? As a newly enrolled student, I can, except for some quests, waltz right out of Hogwarts, get into the restricted section of the library, unlock teachers' rooms, and quite literally steal stuff. With no consequences. For a 19th century boarding school, Hogwarts run with the discipline of a sodding Discord server. Well, you may say it would be limiting, and I would say not really. It would be another gameplay element. Wouldn't it be wonderful to try to sneak around Hogwarts with a disillusionment charm? Feel the thrill of going out after successfully sneaking through prefects, prank friends or portraits. Hell, maybe baiting Peeves as I was sneaking and returning to my dorms before he told on me, so teachers question his honesty in a very small dialogue. Do you see the missed potential here? But nope. I don't even have to sleep at night. Oh wait, I can't, even if I wanted to, because the game doesn't have any sleeping mechanics. Of course, there's the switch to day to night or night to day system, but it's limited to only that. Hours and times of day are not important, because apparently sleep is for lesser beings who can't control the very fabric of time via the mighty menu option. Oh, by the way, let alone sleeping, you can't even sit around passing time or at least watch some scenery while blending in with the environment, because there's no mechanic for that. The sit buttons you see while I'm playing, that's a mod. Funnily enough, NPCs do have all that, and with a small mod, you can make the player use these NPC activities, sit on chairs, act like doing something with other students, or just fucking sleep instead of declaring it to be morning. Even though NPCs have all that activity stuff, they don't contribute much, because the school ignores players' existence. Spells are completely ineffective except for some puzzles. I would understand if the school was enchanted to prevent excessive damage, but they don't do anything at all. I can't make a student drop things they try to balance in their hands. Can't help a student pick up their dropped belongings.
Heard you're defending Hogsmeade against trolls. You know, there is such a thing as trying too hard.
Can't make a student fly. Can't make a teacher fly. Because just like how they didn't bother making a curfew, consequence, or reputation system, they didn't bother making spells with any consequences work on friendly NPCs. Apart from that, casting unforgivable. Again, unforgivable. Curses to my enemies, right beside my teachers, punish you with a disappointed vibe, and nothing else. Except Sebastian. He's like, cool spell, bruv. As I said, it has such an impactful reputation and consequence system that it dies in agony right after the cutscene it appears and finishes. So you can't be evil or a bully. Want to play a character like Draco Malfoy? Tough shit. You can roleplay freely as long as your role is helpful citizen. The worst things you can do include keeping people's stuff that you fought for after a side quest,
That's it.
Every side quest, or every quote-unquote choice, forces you to be a good person, or a mildly annoying person at best. Your answers range from polite agreement to slightly less polite agreement. For a game that uses the choices meta tag, Hogwarts Legacy is deeply committed to making sure none of them do. Another thing I don't get is, except for the very first ones, lessons are just cutscenes. Cutscenes which you watch before learning a spell from a completely irrelevant teacher. Cutscenes that you watch between the light genocide you're committing to the goblins in the Scottish Highlands. When that cutscene ends, you undermine a decade-long curriculum and master a complex spell in seconds. Why? Why can't I just feel like my character is attending actual classes? Is it really hard to make 5 or 6 minigames and puzzles for each class to make the player feel like their character is learning things in-game, earning grades and house points accordingly? Well, when you're at it, how about making the house points actually matter? They have no point whatsoever. The purpose of house points being fun service is so aggressively visible it elbows you in the ribs right before baiting Potterheads into feeling, oh, they know the law. Oh, by the way, there's another immersion breaking problem too.
You can't imagine how inconvenient
When another
travel was
adventure,
before I
are we?
invented flu powder.
What are you
Handy
up to now?
resource
You
indeed.
can't
Imagine
imagine
how
how
inconvenient
inconvenient
travel was.
The game is littered with repeating lines like these. I'm not saying they should record hundreds of lines, but the amount that we hear them should most definitely be tuned down. Every single time we get close to a flu powder station, which is how you fast travel, which means that you will hear that every time you fast travel, I don't have to be reminded how inconvenient travel was before you invented the F stand for fucking loo powder. And yes, Edmund, I understand that it does not get any more cozy than fucking Hogsmeade. And it's cozier, you Victorian allegedly school pupil wizard. Anyway, when I first started playing, I wondered why the game looks weird, blurry, and almost muddy. Then I realised the game defaulted the ray tracing ultra settings and quality upscaling for my game. The DLSS was the culprit. Disabled the DLSS and ray tracing, rebooted the game, and finally game was looking way better. I'm not that much of a frame rate nut, so I didn't mind getting 60 to 90 FPS instead of 160 or something, though this made me realise the game is pretty unoptimised. They tried to fix it by splitting the castle into chunks or mask it by preventing flying over Hogsmeade, but still, especially when running around castle, your FPS may suddenly drop to 20 for some reason. With upscaling, this problem was kinda masked because it dropped from 160 to 50. Nevertheless, it was still pretty noticeable with that difference. By using some unofficial mods, I managed to fix optimization issues for the most part, and what these mods were doing was mostly Unreal Engine parameter fiddling. I hate when that happens, when modders optimize the game way better than the original developers. Also, this upscaling and frame gen started to become an obstacle for game optimization. Oh no need to optimize, DLSS will double our frames anyway. Don't get me wrong, as a game developer myself, I'm not at all against the use of these technologies, but they should be used to give us more, not to give us the average. For example, even though The Witcher 3 is a heavier game in terms of graphics and has arguably more complicated mechanics, thus should require more computing power, the performance of that game is way better. You may say, well, it's Unreal Engine's fault. And you would be wrong. Just because you couldn't utilize the engine, that doesn't mean the bad performance is a fault of the engine. If modders can mod some config files and make your game run better, this should tell you that you didn't really give the required effort to fix the performance problems. Speaking of technicality, bugs. Even though most of them are not game breaking, the game has a lot of bugs. Of course, a game will have bugs, but Hogwarts Legacy is above average on that. Especially visual bugs break immersion. The most common one was robes clipping through legs. I could fix that with jumping once or twice, but since the other characters can't, it looks a bit weird. AI is a bit jarred, physics is a bit weird. I once had a dueling championship match with no one reacting to any spell that I used on them except taking damage. As I said, most of them are not game breaking, but most of them. I had problems proceeding in 2 quests that I had to waste my time by doing all the quest again just to see the issues still persist. In both cases I installed a mod from the official mods page with no help at all. After that, I installed SQL mod menu and executed SQL commands to fix the issues. This last step would be not at all easy for a beginner, let alone the fact that I can fix these with mods, but console players probably can't and would probably lose a save. These were not even side quests, they were main quests, so your save would be softlocked from proceeding any further. Another annoyance, bloody Alohomora. For some reason, Alohomora makes you complete a minigame to unlock a lock. It's not that problematic at first, but as you start to unlock multiple doors close to each other, it becomes very annoying. Also, isn't the spell supposed to just work? Like, isn't that magic? I wonder if the developers just went, oh, most games have this, I suppose it's necessary, let's add this pointless and lore-inaccurate minigame. And it doesn't really add to the gameplay either, it's not a lockpicking mechanic. You don't have finite lockpicks that break if you fail. Not that I like that system, and it's great that it doesn't have that limitation, but this pointless minigame is very unnecessary. Let alone the fact that I have to go to a godforsaken place and find a statue that I can pick up only at night to be able to upgrade the other 2 levels of Alohomora. Yes, for some reason, Alahomora's spell has levels, you have to collect some demiguise statues to upgrade your level, and the game doesn't tell you where those statues are. Sure, there's a legend on the map, and sure, some of them are in the castle or Hogsmeade, but the rest is just an unnecessarily tedious task for no purpose. Oh, also, the elephant in the room. No romance. Somehow, you spend dozens of hours alongside the same students, fight for your lives together, uncover dark secrets, and casually practice spells that would make any normal child take therapy for years. Yet, nobody ever develops feelings stronger than a good friend. You might be one of the people who may say, but they're not adults, so romance is not appropriate. But like, come on. Who was 19 when they had their first crush? Teenagers having crushes, boyfriends and girlfriends is like the last thing that should be a taboo. Of course, there should not be anything that implies underage intercourse. I can also understand a lack of snogging too. Developers may want to play it safe, especially for the age rating of the game. But safe does not mean sterile, let alone ominous or like Imelda. At the very least, the main relationship quest characters should have been romanceable. Also, as the environment goes, there should be some shy students given quests like, hey, I like this character, can you give this note to them? You two seem close. Awkward pauses, missed signals, words that had slipped through in the heat of the moment. Human interaction! Because is it really such a stretch? If my character is a heterosexual high school girl, is it really hard to imagine that Sebastian Sallow, the dueling champ, loses for the first time in a long run and develops a crush on that young witch who bested him? Or my, curious character, Edmund, start to take a liking to the blind prince Ominous, who maturely defected from his family's pure-blood fanaticism and dark arts keenance, even though he is a member of one of the 28 secret families, the Gaunt family, the one that descends directly from Salazar Slytherin. It feels weird that you can learn unforgivable curses as a teenager, but heaven forbid you feel butterflies when someone smiles at you. Refusing to include that kind of interaction doesn't protect anyone. It just makes the world feel artificial. As if everyone at Hogwarts collectively agreed to suppress basic human emotions. Which ironically makes the setting less believable than the magic. If you're comfortable with teenage characters who cast unforgivable curses, commit mass violence, and decide the fate of ancient powers but draw the line at someone getting flustered over a note passed in class, your priorities might be slightly out of order. Well, in summary, these are the small but important details that can make a game immersive. Again, this game presents itself and tries to act like an RPG, though it's not really successful at that. A lot of the groundwork is already there, but the game just refuses to walk the last 10 meters. The castle begs to be lived in, but the systems refuse. Apart from all these immersion issues, gameplay slips out as a fine gem. Duels are powered by a combat system that feels similar to Rocksteady's games, which is reworked to fit the Hogwarts universe. The basis is simple: attack the enemies, block when needed. This may sound basic, but the game builds upon that system very well. It also adds variations to the system in a way that you can expect from a game that takes place in a magical world, by allowing you to use different spells. As I said, after watching some cutscenes and completing tasks, you can learn new spells to use in combat and non-combat situations. This makes fighting a pretty fun task. You can make enemies fly, burst them into flames, turn them into furniture, and slam them into walls. And you do it all with style. Hit feedback is amazing. Enemy reactions, sounds, visual effects, animations. The game makes you feel that you're hurting them. Also, the blocking spell feels lovely. Stupefy on a perfect block.
Nice.
Even the basic spell feels very good to use, even though it doesn't do as much damage as the other spells do. And since your basic spell is one that you'll use when your other spells are on cooldown, this is pretty necessary so that you don't feel like you're useless when waiting. Furthermore, there's the Ancient Magic system. It uses its own mana bar that you fill by dealing damage and collecting orbs that fall off of enemies. When you've got enough of that ancient magic, you can cast it onto enemies to commit some of the many attacks. You can strike people with lightning. You can crush spiders under your feet. You can slam goblins onto the ground. You can turn poachers into chickens. They've made a nice variety of attacks for each type of enemy. This makes it a great element when fighting a high number of enemies or opponents with more health. Also, if your ancient magic meter is not filled completely, by using a small amount of it, you can throw objects that you find on the battlefield at your foes. This makes the fights and the environment feel more dynamic. Moreover, my favourite, curses. The unforgivables are very fun to use. Crucio literally stops and prevents an enemy from attacking you until it wears off. Imperio makes the enemy you used it on fight for you until it wears off. And Avada Kedavra, well, it gets them a free holiday with the Grim Reaper. There's also the passive curse system. By using the unforgivable curses or using the dark arts skill tree, you can unlock abilities to passively curse enemies. For example, if you use Crucio on someone, they will get marked with a green cross as they get cursed. These cursed enemies take more damage, and after you've cursed someone already, let's say you cast Expelliarmus to someone else, if you've unlocked the ability, they will get cursed as well. After cursing multiple enemies like that, if you've unlocked that ability too, and if you use Avada Kedavra on someone, it also kills all the other cursed enemies. Although the Avada Kedavra is pretty overpowered, you can learn it only when you're very close to the end of the game, so it makes it up for its power. This reminds me, you can make use of spell combos. You can summon an enemy using Accio, slam them into the ground using Descender afterwards, freeze them in place using Glacius, then finally shatter them into pieces using Defendo. These combinations render the combat system way more satisfying and entertaining. Another feature that I loved is the Apparate Dodge skill. It's most definitely the first skill you should unlock. It makes dodging way more fun. It basically makes you teleport a couple of meters further when you do a combat roll. Also, it helps you in some quests that you have to crawl through some tunnels. Unfortunately though, as per the other parts of the game, combat is also not perfect. A problem that I can think of is the lack of different enemy types. It feels like there's a total of 7 to 8 different enemy types at best. I know there are numerous types of factions as well as animals, but most of them are reskinned versions of each other. There are range attack humans, big humans, and average humans. Range attack goblins and normal goblins. Small spiders and big spiders. Trolls, 2 or 3 wild animals, and that's it. Everything is a variation of those. Even some boss fights are basically this enemy, but with a huge health bar. Because the combat is very polished, you don't really feel it that much at the beginning. The game does play cleverly. It doesn't send you after, let's say, poachers twice before making you visit another faction. But as we get closer to the end of the game, it starts becoming apparent. Another thing I don't like is the limited spell amount. Don't get me wrong, it's not too few, it's enough. But it's just it. Enough. A couple more spells, such as Aguamenti to cast water onto some fire-powered enemies, or Protego Maxima to protect you and your companion under a larger temporary sphere. Also, some spells are passive. They can't be manually cast. For example, the iconic Stupefy can only be cast after a perfect block. Petrificus Totalis can only be cast on unsuspecting enemies while being stealthy. So maybe stronger, manually castable versions of Stupefy or Petrificus Totalis could be neat additions. These new spells might have also opened a window into new possible enemy types. Again, spells are enough, but it would be very nice to have a bit more variety. Oh, as I said, the game has stealth. Either with a disillusionment charm or a more powerful but shorter fused invisibility potion, you can be a ghost on the battlefield. You can unlock the eye chests, and you can kill otherwise hard to kill enemies easily with Petrificus Totalis. But that's about it for stealth. Apart from combat, since this is a game that you can develop your character, you can level up and unlock skills. The game utilizes a system called the Field Guide for this. You can gain XP by completing challenges such as complete 10 Merlin trials or complete 5 side quests. Then you use that XP to level up, which gives you more damage and health, as well as the ability to unlock new skills and wear better gear. This system is pretty fine on its own, I don't have many problems with that. But the gear system is still stupid items with levels system. You have items with certain levels, along with certain defense and offense values. As you level up, your lovely, hard to find or craft, silver-lined, super protected great robe is becoming useless. Also, the default outfit that the game gave you at the beginning, and is better looking than the 90% of the other outfits, obsolete hours ago. This outdated system is not really great, as it only promotes micro-exploration constantly. Thankfully, my favourite feature in the game, the transmog system, comes to the rescue. You can wear whatever you have to, and then you can make it look like whatever you want to. You can wear your powerful armoured robe, keep your defense up, and still look like a Hogwarts student on the outside. By the way, you can toggle your robe's hood on and off. Also, once you get an item, even if you sell it, you can use it with the transmog system, only as an appearance of course, not the stats. So this fixes the issue with leveled items. Nevertheless, the leveled item system itself is still outdated. In addition, an outfit preset system would be very good as well, combined with an in and out of Hogwarts outfit system that makes you change appearance automatically into those presets that you defined as in and out as you're getting out of Hogwarts grounds and when you return to the castle. It would very much contribute to the immersion. Exploration is very nice in this game too. As I said, I prefer walking around or using my broom to travel rather than using flue powder. The game gives numerous things to do in the open world. You can collect herbs or fight animals to gain resources, you can complete side quests for small rewards, you can kill enemies such as ashwinders and poachers to get experience. Apart from those, you can use Merlin trials to solve puzzles that give you more slots to carry clothing, you can find ancient magic hotspots to increase your maximum ancient magic meter, you can visit bunkers and caves to find treasures that you can use, wear or sell for a fair price. Or you can just explore around, enjoy the scenery, visit Hogsmeade and have fun. the world gives you lovely choices at that. You're also equipped with a very useful spell. Revelio is probably the spell name that you'll hear the most throughout the game. It basically sends a signal that highlights points of interest, such as yellow for collectibles, blue for interactables, and red for enemies. Whether you're exploring a cave, trying to find your way out of a catacomb, or searching for a field guide page, Revelio is always there to assist you in your journey. You have to use it every chance you get if you want to get the maximum out of the game, though the game tends to make you overuse that spell. Open world gameplay is a bit too reliant on Revelio, however, it's not that big of a deal. And another thing I really like, NPCs that you travel go with your speed. If you run, they run. If you walk, they walk. No more annoying, you're either ahead or behind of that NPC thing. This is a very, very neat addition that almost all games should have, but somehow they haven't. Even though these sound great on paper, the game falls flat in filling in between the lines. Open world sounds like a sack full of gems, but you find only charcoal in that sack after taking out the first layer of stones. Firstly, why the bloody hell am I alone? Why is there no companion mechanics? Why can't I just travel around with Sebastian or Natty? I can understand the inability to recruit teachers or citizens as permanent companions, but why can't I just call my mate Ominous to come with me when I'm going out exploring? Except the fact that he's quite literally blind and could be dangerous for him. But I can well look after my bruv. I fixed it with a mod and it seems that it recovered some mechanics, which means that the game had some companion logic at some point in the development. But to be honest, a single dismissible companion without mods would make the exploration feel way more lively. Even though our character is gifted and shite, why would you prefer fighting alone? Better yet, why not give us the choice to fight alone or not? I love making small talk with my companions or hearing their comments on my actions in games, and the lack of it in Hogwarts Legacy seems like a huge missed potential. Secondly, quests are essentially small errands that make you either a courier or a treasure hunter. Not many small stories, immersive dilemmas, just, "Oi, the boy that killed a troll in Hogsmeade. Can you find me that vase ring in that catacomb that is around fuck knows where?" Some side quests like the relationship quest with the main characters are way more interesting. As I said before, they're not that good, but at least they have their own more in-depth storyline and atmosphere. And that's completely fine. I'm not expecting a Fallout New Vegas quality in all the open world side quests, but almost all are too dull. It feels like their existence is just to fill the void of the open world. Go to that place, slap some goblins, find the item and retrieve it. That's like 80% of the side quests in the open world. As for the Merlin trials, they're basically copied and pasted versions of the same 5 to 6 puzzles scattered throughout the valley. As I did more for gear slots, the more boring they got. They're only required for challenges to get gear slots though, so they are optional if you're not a completionist. Also, they require mellow speed leaves, which was annoying, because while I was exploring, I wanted to complete the Merlin trials on the way as I got closer to my destination, but no, I was out of some bloody leaves. Off I go to Hogsmeade or a hamlet to buy some. Even though I figured out that I can grow them in the room of requirement further in the game, this still feels like a pointless requirement. Ancient magic hotspots are also suffering a similar repetitiveness issue, but they are less copy-pasty. They are parkour puzzles that require you to reach 3 checkpoints. When you complete one, it fills your ancient magic bar. Similar to Merlin trials, they are also required for some challenges which extend your ancient magic bar as you complete, so if you want to extend your ancient magic abilities, you have to complete them. My favourite activities though were the detective ones. They give you some maps to follow, which you can follow the shown traces or try to match the depicted landmarks. I remember one that I was following candles throughout the Forbidden Forest. There was also one that you can solve by ringing some bells on a ruined castle wall. Also, the small arithmancy puzzles that you use symbol combinations around the castle to unlock some secret rooms. These were pretty unique and fun to solve, and I didn't even do them because of whatever rewards that were at the end. Sure, an in-game reward contributed to satisfaction and it must be there, but I didn't do it for reward. I did it just for the sake of solving puzzles. This review wouldn't be complete without talking about the flying mechanics. Controls are a bit janky, at least on PC, but after you fiddle with it for some time, you get used to it, and when you get used to it, it is very enjoyable. As I said before, flying around the valley is astonishing. The views are amazing, and flying makes you catch them clearly. Though, for some reason, you can't look up or down too much, this limits the field of view. Even though it's not a big issue, it's a mild annoyance that prevents us from enjoying the views at their full potential. There are some other means of flying rather than using a broom, such as riding a hippogriff, though I think the broom is the superior flying choice. As activities, there are also broom races where you can challenge other students' times and get upgrades for your broom. In addition, there are balloons that you can put while flying, and special landing platforms that you can land on to get more experience. Nice additions to give flying a purpose other than transportation. Because there's no fucking Quidditch! It's bloody infuriating. You've implemented flying, you've implemented multiple broom types, and a shop for flying equipment. You've even put the pitch for the game. Everything is there. Why not even a scripted quest? Oh. I see. Oh, I almost forgot. The Room of Requirements. A room to help you with your studying at Hogwarts so that you can close the gap with other 5th years. You can decorate it yourself using spellcrafts, basically pots and cauldrons, to grow plants, make potions, or feed beasts. I don't really like every build your own shite system in games. Some of them feel very pointless and tiresome, and especially I get mad when they have stupid limitations if they are not for gameplay balance. For example, I didn't really like the settlement building system of Fallout 4 because, for example, in the Sanctuary, you can't remove or customize roads, house foundations, or most of the pre-existing decorative plants. But when the Vault-Tech Workshop DLC dropped, I fucking loved it. Because what's cooler than building a functional vault in Fallout? Even though the system is littered with issues, especially with electricity and settler management, I spent hours in Fallout 4 just to build my beloved vaults. Yes, plural. I did it over and over again. That was my first feeling when I got into the Room of Requirement. I thought I was going to spend hours creating a lovely room. Unfortunately, or thankfully, the building system is pretty limited. There are not many decoration options. The room is mainly for growing plants or brewing potions. Oh, there are also vivariums that you can use to hold the fantastic beasts that you caught from where you find them. Get that reference to the films. So that you can feed, clean, and breed them for resources. So basically, Room of Requirements is a glorified garden or a farm. Even though I didn't spend my whole day decorating it, I believe I used it pretty productively. The room really helps you to prepare for combat and quests. You can craft almost any resource and any potion if you buy the recipe for it. Though, be careful about what you buy. Not every plant grows in every pot, so you have to get small, medium or large pots depending on the plant that you want to grow. Though once you buy all 3 of them, it doesn't really matter anymore, but at least it may save you some galleons for the first pot that you buy. By the way, the best spellcraft investment that you can make is the hopping pot. You buy it from tomes and scrolls and it creates a random potion, except the truth serum, every 12 minutes without needing any resources. Though they cost 30 moonstones and you can only have a maximum of 3 of them, but still, once you've got it, it's very helpful. You get 3 potions, you go and finish a quest, you come back, and you've got 3 more potions. It's a really good way to keep your potion stock refreshed. And that, ladies and gentlemen, and variations thereupon, was Hogwarts Legacy. I've got some other points, but the video is getting a bit too long, so I'll end it here. A lovely game that we didn't deserve, that we didn't need, but the game that we got. I can't speak for Harry Potter fans, as I'm not even one of them, but the game surely got me into the wizarding world, so I'm not sure if Potterheads will be disappointed or not. Even though most of them probably played already since the game is 3 years old. But because I didn't have such high expectations, I didn't have much disappointment. Though it was still a bit of a disappointment. I was waiting for an above average RPG from the tags and the description and so on, but it was an average game in that regard. My criticism may feel a bit too much, but believe me, if I didn't see the potential of what this game could be, I would be this quote-unquote harsh and would just say an average game. As an action game, however, it was a very fun game to play. Combat feels very good and atmosphere is interesting. It was visually pleasing and got me into a new universe. I think I'm a forever Slytherin now.
Typical Slytherin trick, dropping a dragon skull on someone during a fight. We Gryffindors fight with honour.
The fuck did you say about my house, you little... Despite its flaws and lack of polish, for fuck's sake. Despite its flaws and lack of polish, it's definitely worth playing. So, my score is... definitely worth playing. Before I'm done, I'm going to make some assumptions and speculations, so what you hear from now on is just my thoughts and opinions which are not facts. Also, if you like this video so far, please consider clicking the like button, and if you want to see more, please consider subscribing to my channel. The game's got a lot of removed voice lines, which include some lines about curfew, a companion system, being able to call people to play games and do other stuff, a morality system, more stories of characters like our meat, stuff like that. So it feels like a lot of features got scrapped, as in done partly, then got rid of because they aren't complete. I don't think much was eliminated in the idea stage, it seems that they've planned a lot. Otherwise, we wouldn't find these voice lines. Why would they pay for unnecessary fees for non-existent features? I can think of reasons why all these issues of the game are present, but I assume the main issue was the time. It feels like the parent company asked them what they had, and the developers showed a bit rougher version of what we got. Then the parent company said, well, it looks done to me now, ship it. Then the developers polished the project a bit and released it, even though it was not what they wanted to release. This is all speculation, obviously, though whatever the reason is, at least the immersion should have been better. We ought to get a sequel, though. Right? Netflix, Paramount, whoever buys Warner Bros., please, give us the next game. I don't like hyping up for announced games, let alone unconfirmed, unannounced possible future games, but I really hope they fix those issues in the sequel. I know your target audience is Potterheads, but believe me, Potterheads plus RPG nuts equals more players, which makes the product more money. I want to believe this game was a learning the ropes session for the studio. I want to believe that we'll get more depth in the sequel, especially in immersion field and the RPG elements. We didn't learn one bit since Daikatana, did we?